She was the quiet woman no one noticed, until the night they tried to humiliate her. When small-town shop assistant Sarah Bennett was pushed onto a stage as a cruel joke, the audience expected awkwardness, laughter, maybe even tears. But when she opened her mouth to sing, every voice in the room fell silent. What followed was a moment no one would ever forget. This is the story of a woman whose hidden talent shook an entire town and captured the hearts of millions. Subscribe and post in the comments, where are you watching from? In the heart of a small, close-knit town in America, where everyone knows everyone and even the smallest secrets travel fast, lives Sarah Bennett. This quiet, unassuming woman in her 40s leads a life that, on the surface, seems ordinary and even mundane. Each morning, as the sun casts a gentle glow over the neat, tree-lined streets, Sarah prepares for another day behind the counter at the local supermarket. Her work is simple but steady. A cashier handling friendly conversations with familiar faces, scanning groceries, and quietly humming along to songs in her head, melodies that echo a secret part of her soul. Sarah dresses modestly, favoring plain, unpretentious clothing that barely draws attention. A worn blue blouse and faded jeans have become her uniform, symbols of a life dedicated to routine and discretion. In a town where appearances are scrutinized and judgment is passed as casually as a nod, Sarah is often seen as a gray mouse, an invisible figure who blends seamlessly into the background. Neighbors and co-workers alike pass her by with little more than a polite smile or, sometimes, a dismissive glance. They underestimate her, unaware that beneath her calm exterior lies a fierce, unspoken passion. For as long as she can remember, Sarah has harbored a secret desire that almost seems too fragile to exist amid the harsh judgments of everyday life. Ever since childhood, she possessed a voice so unique and powerful that it could stir hearts and transform silence into song. But a long-ago traumatic experience, one that left deep emotional scars, forced her to bury that dream away. The fear of public scrutiny and the bitter sting of ridicule had kept her true talent concealed, hidden away in the depths of her soul. So every time she walked past the town hall or the local church, the echo of her dreams mingled silently with the dusty memories of what might have been. Despite her inner world being alight with unexpressed music and emotion, Sarah's external life followed a pattern as predictable as the changing seasons. Day after day, she moved through her routine without disruption, until one fateful morning when something unexpected occurred. As she counted out change for a regular customer, a folded piece of paper caught her eye. It was an invitation, neatly printed and delivered in an envelope with elegant handwriting. The message announced the upcoming charity evening at the local community club, a long-held annual event that promised laughter, goodwill, and, perhaps unknowingly, the chance to share hidden talents. For some, the charity event was just another social gathering in the small town's calendar of predictable happenings. For others, it was an opportunity for self-expression and community bonding. But to Sarah, the invitation carried a particularly charged meaning. On one hand, it was a chance to step out of the shadows and witness the vibrancy of community life. On the other, it thornily reminded her of the dream she had long since forced herself to forget. The dream of singing, of letting her powerful voice be heard. As she held the invitation in her trembling hand, Sarah's mind raced with conflicting thoughts. The cautious part of her wanted only to remain invisible, to avoid any spotlight that might expose her vulnerabilities. Yet, deep within, there lay a fragile ember of hope, a yearning to be recognized for the gift she had silently nurtured over the years. That spark of potential, however dim, whispered that perhaps, just perhaps, this charity evening might be the turning point she never believed could come. In that quiet supermarket break room, where the rhythmic sounds of the day melted into a moment of introspection, Sarah's heart pounded a little faster with anticipation and trepidation. With the invitation clutched gently in her hand, she realized that her life, so long defined by routine and concealment, might soon face an unexpected twist. And as daylight streamed through the window, casting gentle shadows on the linoleum floor, Sarah Bennett felt the weight of a decision beginning to form. A decision that would set her on a path she had never dared to imagine until now. The small town was abuzz with anticipation as preparations for the annual charity evening began. Every year, the local community club transformed into a sparkling venue where neighbors gathered to support worthy causes, share laughter, and sometimes, to let their true colors shine. Elaborate decorations were hung along the walls, tables draped in crisp linens were set in neat rows, and fairy lights began to twinkle as dusk approached. In this close-knit community, where every whispered rumor could soon become headline news, every detail of the event played a dual role, celebrating generosity while subtly reinforcing social hierarchies. In the midst of these unfolding plans, Sarah Bennett received her personal invitation. Neatly printed on luxurious stationery with a touch of gold embossing, the invitation carried both an air of sincerity and an undercurrent of irony. It was as if the sender wanted to extend a genuine olive branch, yet at the same time knew exactly how the town would react. Some of her neighbors truly wished to see her break free from her daily invisibility, their words laced with encouragement and genuine interest. Others, however, saw the invitation as an opportunity, not to uplift Sarah, but to highlight the town's perception of her as an ordinary, unremarkable gray mouse. Sarah held the invitation with trembling hands, her mind a tumult of conflicted emotions. On one level, the thought of being singled out, of stepping into the spotlight at such an intimate event, filled her with apprehension. Memories of her long-repressed dream, to sing, to let her hidden voice echo freely, resurfaced with every careful crease of the paper. Yet, the trauma of past dismissals and public ridicule gnawed at her confidence. For years, she had buried her passion out of a desperate desire to avoid the crippling fear of being laughed at, of having her vulnerabilities exposed. Still, as she read the invitation a second time, a spark of determination began to kindle within her. The words "Join us for an unforgettable evening of community and compassion" glowed on the page, carrying an unspoken promise that perhaps this night could be different. Sarah reasoned with herself. If she refused to attend, she would risk being seen as an outlier, a white crow standing apart in stark contrast to the accepted norm. In a town where conformity was the unspoken rule, being noticed, even for all the wrong reasons, might be preferable to complete invisibility. Later that afternoon, while unfolding the invitation on her small kitchen table, Sarah's thoughts drifted between reluctance and an inexplicable hope. She recalled the nights spent alone with her memories, the echo of a melody that she dared not sing aloud, the taste of words unsung that lingered like a secret promise. For years, this voice had been her shield and her sorrow. Now, it called to her from a distance, urging her to reclaim what had been stifled by fear. As the day wore on, the invitation weighed heavily in her hands and heart. Even as she engaged in her modest routine at the supermarket, where the chatter of customers and the routine beep of the cash register provided a monotonous backdrop, she could not shake the persistent call to step beyond the confines of her familiar world. The invitation was both a challenge and a doorway, a chance to be seen, not merely as the quiet cashier, but as a person capable of brilliance hidden behind an unassuming exterior. Word of the upcoming charity evening had already begun to circulate among the townsfolk, and Sarah could hear snippets of conversation from the aisles of the store. Some patrons spoke warmly of the event, reminiscing about past evenings filled with heartfelt music and unexpected moments of grace. Others, however, exchanged sly smiles and whispered teasing remarks about Sarah's predictable, modest life, implicitly questioning whether such a reserved woman could ever truly contribute to the sparkle of the event. Despite every doubt and every whispered cynicism, Sarah made her decision. Driven by an inner resolve bolstered by years of silent yearning, she decided that she would attend the charity evening. If she were to remain forever hidden in the background, her dream of one day singing, of letting her powerful, carefully guarded voice be heard, would remain an unfulfilled fantasy. By accepting the invitation, she would at least have a chance to confront her fears and, perhaps, transform the narrative assigned to her by others. That evening, as the warm glow of the setting sun made its way over the horizon and cast long shadows across the quiet town, Sarah prepared herself for the unknown. She chose her outfit with extra care. A simple yet clean dress that she reserved for special occasions, one that reflected both her humility and the subtle strength that lay beneath her reserved demeanor. Standing before her modest mirror, she took a deep breath, silently reaffirming her commitment. Tonight, she would step into the light, even if just for a few fleeting hours. With the invitation folded safely in her purse, Sarah Bennett stepped out into the gentle embrace of the evening, her heart filled with both trepidation and hope. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with the potential for both ridicule and revelation. But as she walked through the quiet streets toward the community club, Sarah knew that this night might mark the first step toward reclaiming the dream that had lived in silence for so long. A dream that could one day redefine not only her life, but perhaps the very way she was seen by the world. The charity evening was well underway at the local community club, a modest venue decorated with string lights, handmade banners, and tables dressed in borrowed finery. Laughter and gentle chatter filled the air as neighbors and locals gathered for an event that promised both entertainment and camaraderie. At the heart of the unfolding festivities, a palpable undercurrent of excitement mixed with mischief, as some in the crowd saw an opportunity to poke fun at those they deemed too ordinary to belong on such a stage. At one point during the evening, the hosts, two local young men known for their cheeky humor and penchant for offhand commentary, took the microphone to introduce an impromptu segment of the show. Their eyes scanned the audience until they landed on Sarah Bennett, who had largely kept to herself until now. With a mischievous glint in their eyes, they declared, "We're looking for a special performance tonight, a hidden talent that's just waiting to shine. How about you, miss? Why don't you step up and show us what you've got, star?" A ripple of laughter burst from the crowd almost immediately. The remark, laced with sarcasm and derision, hung in the air like a challenge. Within moments, someone from the audience, a rather boisterous individual, tossed a small, portable microphone toward the stage, shouting, "Come on, show us what you're made of, star. Let's see if the little mouse can sing." Sarah's heart pounded as she was beckoned toward the stage. For years, she had guarded her secret with such fierce determination. Her unique, powerful voice hidden beneath layers of self-doubt and the trauma of public scrutiny from her past. Now, forced into the spotlight by the very people who never believed in her, she felt a surge of terror and humiliation. The simple yet elegant dress she wore, a modest pastel number reserved solely for special occasions, offered little comfort against the biting judgment of the room. Her outfit, neat and unadorned, seemed to spotlight her vulnerability. The clean lines and humble fabric were a stark contrast to the gaudy expectations of flamboyance that the event otherwise embraced. Under the harsh glare of stage lights, Sarah's trembling hands and quivering lips betrayed her inner turmoil. Every eye in the room was fixed upon her, a silent chorus of skepticism and, for some, delight at witnessing this so-called gray mouse being pushed to perform. The mocking banter had grown louder, and whispers of disbelief swirled like autumn leaves around her. She stood there, rooted to the spot, caught in a maelstrom of anxiety and longing. The hushed few who had once dismissed her now watched in anticipatory silence, expecting to see her falter. Time seemed to stretch as the noise of the crowd receded into an oppressive silence, leaving Sarah alone on the stage with a single salvaged microphone in her hand. Her internal battle flared, memories of a childhood filled with secret rehearsals and whispered dreams clashed with the bitter sting of humiliation. The weight of every mocking laugh pressed down upon her as she stood before an audience prepared to ridicule rather than appreciate her hidden gift. At that critical moment, as the microphone's weight reminded her of the years lost to fear and self-imposed silence, Sarah felt an overwhelming urge to flee. But something deeper stirred within her. An echo of the voice she once knew was truly hers. Though her eyes were glistening with unshed tears and her throat was tight with uncertainty, a single, tentative breath signaled the start of a decision. With a deep, shuddering intake of air, Sarah stepped forward, her heart a blend of vulnerability and a long-dormant resolve, ready to break the chains of fear, even if the outcome was unknown. The stage was set for a moment that would define not only the rest of the evening, but potentially her entire life. In that instant, with every mocking comment still echoing and the crowd poised on the brink of laughter, Sarah realized that her secret, her voice, was too precious to be confined by the disdain of others. The silence that followed was heavy with expectation. Every second stretched into eternity as she braced herself to either succumb to humiliation or to defy it with the power of her long-silenced song. With the oppressive pressure of the audience's mocking expectations hanging heavy in the air, Sarah closed her eyes and drew a deep, steadying breath. In that singular, charged moment, she decided to reclaim the dream she had long sheltered away. Slowly, almost hesitantly at first, her lips parted and the first note emerged. A sound so pure and heartfelt that it seemed to suspend time. Like a gentle ripple breaking a stagnant pond, the sound resonated through the stillness of the club. As her song unfurled, the transformation was palpable. The sharpness of the ongoing ridicule dissolved into hushed silence. Every person in the room was captivated, their attention drawn irresistibly to the source of the sound. Sarah's voice, surprisingly powerful and imbued with raw emotion, filled every corner of the space. It was as if each note carried a piece of her hidden soul, unburdened and free, painting the air with colors of hope, sorrow, and yearning all at once. The melody, rich and soulful, wrapped itself around the hearts of the listeners. Some eyes began to glisten with tears as memories and emotions they'd long suppressed suddenly resurfaced. The room, once filled with scorn and whispered jests, surrendered to an overwhelming sense of awe. Every heart, regardless of earlier skepticism, was moved by the sheer beauty and vulnerability emanating from Sarah's song. As she continued, her voice grew stronger, more confident with each passing verse. The contrast between the timid woman who had been forced onto the stage and the resounding power of her true self was both dramatic and inspiring. The notes soared, echoing off the walls of the community club, as if they were reclaiming every moment of her abandoned dream. For a few timeless minutes, the world outside ceased to exist, and all that remained was the music, the embodiment of Sarah's quiet strength and the resilience of the human spirit. When the final note faded into the hush of the night, a silence of complete reverence enveloped the hall. Then, as if a spell had been broken, the silence exploded into thunderous applause. The audience, once intent on mockery, now erupted in genuine ovation. Tears, smiles, and spontaneous cheers filled the room, each reaction a silent testimony to the transformative power of a voice that finally found its freedom. The following morning, the once humdrum routine of the small town was shattered by whispers of a miraculous performance that had taken place the night before. By sunrise, a ripple of astonishment had evolved into a tidal wave of admiration. Neighbors who had once barely spared a glance for Sarah Bennett now found themselves pausing in their daily lives, at the grocery store, on the quiet sidewalks, even in the local diner, just to talk about the woman whom they had underestimated for years. As Sarah walked to work that day at the supermarket, her ears were filled with murmurs of disbelief and regret. Several familiar faces that once dismissed her now approached with hesitant apologies. "I'm so sorry," said one elderly customer, eyes earnest and full of remorse. "I never knew you had a gift like that." Others congratulated her quietly, some even teasingly. "Who knew our little Sarah had such a powerful voice hidden inside all this quietness?" Their initial mockery had now been replaced by a sincere awe. For the first time in her life, Sarah felt seen, not as a mere gray mouse, but as a woman capable of stirring hearts with her hidden talent. Unbeknownst to Sarah, a video of her impromptu performance had been recorded by a young bystander and quickly uploaded to social media. Within hours, the clip had sparked a wildfire of shares and comments. Hashtags like #HiddenVoice, #SarahZinx, and #Unforgettable began trending, and soon the video had amassed millions of views. The raw emotion in her singing, each note imbued with pain, hope, and the long-repressed dream of a lifetime, resonated far beyond the small town. People from all walks of life reached out, sharing their own stories of overcoming fear and prejudice. Sarah suddenly found herself at the center of a grassroots movement that celebrated authenticity and the courage to break free from imposed invisibility. At first, the flood of praise and newfound attention left Sarah both shocked and deeply conflicted. The same people who once ridiculed her now extolled her virtues, and she struggled to reconcile the timid cashier she had known herself to be with the emerging persona of a true artist. Over the course of the day, as she listened to the heartfelt messages from strangers and witnessed the transformation in her community's attitude, a spark of self-belief began to ignite within her. Criticism had once chained her spirit, but now the warmth of support offered the promise of real change. Encouraged by the overwhelming positive feedback, Sarah began to envision possibilities that had once seemed like distant dreams. Invitations to perform at local festivals, community gatherings, and even informal jam sessions started to arrive. The town's church choir, a group notorious for its reserved performances, invited her to share her voice at the next service. Each invitation, each word of encouragement, added layers of certainty that this was her moment to step out of the shadows. Her transformation was not merely external. It was deeply personal. The stinging memories of a childhood silenced by fear began to loosen their grip, replaced by a trembling yet undeniable resolve. With every kind word and supportive gesture, Sarah felt her inner strength building. Her secret long held close was now blossoming into a genuine celebration of self. As the day drew to a close, Sarah sat quietly in the back of the supermarket during a rare lull, reflecting on the profound shift in her world. The echoes of last night's performance still reverberated in her mind. The transformation of ridicule into respect had not only reshaped how others saw her, but how she began to see herself. That evening, as she scrolled through the endless stream of uplifting messages and glowing comments online, a cautious smile crept onto her face. A smile that spoke of the promise of a new beginning, one forged by her own voice and the unexpected power of shared humanity. In the weeks following the transformative reaction to her performance, Sarah Bennett's life began to change in ways she had never dared imagine. The video of her onstage moment, shared and reshared across social media, had not only made her the talk of the town but had also transcended the boundaries of her quaint community. One crisp morning, as she unlocked the door to the supermarket, a neatly embossed envelope caught her eye, a formal invitation to audition for a nationally televised talent show. The unexpected message pulsed with promise. It was an opportunity to share her voice with millions, to finally let the world hear what had long been silenced. At first, the invitation stirred a whirlwind of excitement and trepidation in Sarah's heart. Would she dare to expose herself to an even larger audience after years of quiet anonymity? The thought both thrilled and terrified her. However, buoyed by the overwhelming support she had received from her fellow townsfolk and countless strangers online, Sarah found herself whispering a tentative yes to the possibility of stepping onto an even bigger stage. Just as Sarah began to navigate this sudden surge of opportunity, a chance encounter at a local coffee shop introduced her to Marcus, a seasoned vocal coach with warm eyes and a gentle manner. Marcus had seen the viral video and was instantly captivated by the raw power and emotion in Sarah's singing. Recognizing the extraordinary potential that lay dormant in her, he offered to work with her privately. "Your voice," he said sincerely one afternoon over steaming cups of coffee, "has the ability to heal, to inspire. Let's polish that gift so that you can shine even brighter." His conviction sparked a new flame of hope within her, and despite her lingering fears, Sarah accepted his mentorship with both gratitude and determination. Under Marcus's guidance, Sarah embarked on an intense yet deeply personal journey of vocal refinement. Their sessions were a blend of rigorous technique exercises, emotional exploration, and gentle encouragement. Marcus helped her rediscover the confidence that had been obscured by years of self-doubt. With every lesson, Sarah's notes grew steadier and her vibrato more assured. She relearned how to control her breath, to let her emotions flow unguardedly through her voice, and most importantly, to embrace the powerful story behind every lyric and melody. At the same time, whispers about Sarah's impending television audition spread throughout the town. While the majority celebrated her, there were murmurs of envy and skepticism from a small few who had once dismissed her as nothing more than a gray mouse. Some questioned whether this newfound popularity was merely a fleeting anomaly. Yet, for most, Sarah's journey from quiet cashier to emerging talent was a beacon of hope, a reminder that unrecognized greatness often lies hidden beneath a plain exterior. Sarah's days were now filled with not only work and daily routines but also fervent practice sessions and video calls with Marcus. Every evening, the comforting sound of a piano and the steady rhythm of her mentor's guidance became the soundtrack of her renewed life. With every passing day, as she watched her voice grow stronger and more vibrant, the fear of public scrutiny began to wane, replaced by a burgeoning confidence that touched every corner of her being. As the audition day grew closer, Sarah found herself balancing on the delicate edge of nervous anticipation and overwhelming passion. Marcus's encouragement and her own inner resolve both whispered that this was her moment. A chance to let the world see the person behind the quiet exterior, to reveal the breathtaking strength of her hidden gift. And even though a few in the town still harbored envy towards her sudden rise, the majority's genuine support filled Sarah with an empowering certainty. Her voice was meant to be heard. The day of the nationally televised talent show had arrived, and with it, the culmination of a journey that began in the quiet aisles of a small-town supermarket. Sarah Bennett stood nervously backstage, the echoes of her past, years spent hidden behind a life of anonymity and whispered dreams, mingling with the excitement of what lay ahead. The weight of every moment of doubt and every discouraging word was now transformed into a powerful resolve. Her mentor, Marcus, gave her a reassuring smile and a few parting words of encouragement, reminding her that the truth of her gift was stronger than any fear. As the stage lights burst to life, Sarah stepped into a vast auditorium filled with tens of thousands of viewers and millions more watching from home. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation. In that instant, all the judgments of the past, the cruel giggles from the charity night, and the long years of silence faded into insignificance. The only sound that mattered was the steady, determined beat of her heart and the melody that had been built up over years of dreams and secret rehearsals. Taking a deep, fortifying breath, Sarah approached the microphone. With a poised calm that belied the swirling emotions inside, she began to sing. Her voice emerged as a crystalline cascade, so pure, rich, and powerful that it filled the hall and seeped into every corner of the vast stage. The notes soared gracefully, carrying the story of her loss, isolation, and a triumphant reclaiming of self. It was the voice of a woman who had weathered humiliation and despair, now echoing with newfound strength and vision. Every listener, from the eager audience in the auditorium to countless viewers at home, was captivated by the sound. The performance was not about technical perfection or flashy theatrics. It was an outpouring of genuine emotion, a raw and unfiltered expression of a heart long concealed. As Sarah reached the climactic crescendo of her performance, silence fell over the crowd in a moment of collective astonishment. It was as if time itself had paused to honor the profound impact of her voice, to let every note resonate with unspoken stories of resilience and hope. When the final note dissolved into a hushed stillness, it was met with an eruption of applause. The standing ovation that followed was thunderous, a testament to the transformative power of authenticity. In that defining moment, Sarah Bennett was no longer the meek cashier overlooked by many. She had become a symbol of empowerment and the extraordinary potential hidden within the unlikeliest of souls. Social media lit up with hashtags like #VoiceThatHeard, #SarahZinks, and #BreakTheSilence, as clips of her performance spread like wildfire across the nation, inspiring millions to believe that no one's talent should ever be underestimated. Overwhelmed with gratitude and reverence for the journey she had undertaken, Sarah left the stage with tears of joy streaming down her face. Surrounded by congratulatory embraces from fellow contestants and accolades from the show's judges, she realized that her once muted dream had blossomed into a movement. Her performance was proof that even in a world where silence is often mistaken for insignificance, every hidden talent has the power to transform lives. As she stood in the backstage corridor later that night, the echo of the crowd's adoration still resounding in her ears, Sarah reflected on her long road to this moment. With quiet conviction, she knew that this was only the beginning. Her voice would continue to break barriers, challenge stereotypes, and inspire those who had ever been relegated to the shadows by society's prejudices. In a simple, heartfelt moment of reflection, Sarah whispered to herself, "Never laugh at the one who remains silent, for in their silence may hide the voice that can change the world. I hope you enjoyed this story. Leave a comment, sharing your thoughts about it. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new and equally exciting stories. See you in the next video.